morning. Welcome to the 379th meeting of the BRTB. This meeting is being recorded. If anyone online experiences any difficulties, please send a message in the chat box. I ask that the BRTB members turn on their cameras during the roll call for attendance as well as for voting. I ask Regina to start the roll call to determine member participation.
Good morning. City of Annapolis. Anne Arundel County.
Present.
Baltimore City. Baltimore County.
Present.
Carroll County. Howard County.
Here.
Harford County.
Here.
Queen Anne's County.
Here.
MDOT.
Hey, present.
Anybody from the Secretary's office?
Dan Janicek here. Thank you.
Dan, okay. RTA of Central Maryland.
Here.
Maryland Department of the Environment.
Here.
Maryland Department of Planning.
Here. Good morning.
Maryland Transit Administration.
Present.
And Federal Highway Administration.
Present.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Our first item is the approval of the minutes from both the September and October BRTB meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes? Hearing none, can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Anne Arundel motions to approve.
Baltimore County will second.
All right, thank you. That was Anne Arundel for the motion and Baltimore for the second. Are there any edits from the members? Hearing none, we will now vote on approval of the minutes. When your name is read, please indicate yea or nay.
City of Annapolis. Anne Arundel County.
A.
Baltimore City. Baltimore County.
Yay.
Carroll County. Harford County.
Yay.
Howard County.
Yay.
Queen Anne's County.
Yay.
MDOT.
Yay.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay.
Thank you.
All right. Next is our public participation opportunity where we offer the public a chance to speak to the board. If anyone has comments on any of the action items, please wait for the item to be discussed. If there is anyone who wishes to address the board at this time, please indicate in the chat box. Todd?
Chair, currently there is no member of the public requesting to speak in the chat box, and we received no request to speak prior to the meeting.
Thank you, sir. We now ask for the report on public involvement activity from Ms. Monaco.
Monica, could we do a mic check on you, please?
Good morning.
There we go.
Okay, so I'm here to present the report for public involvement for this month. Next slide. So we've got a new website. Our regional engagement hub is yourregionyourvoice.org. So next slide. For the past month, we were able to engage over 4,665 participants, visitors, and over 100 and we had 169 people participate. Those folks shared 70 comments. We had 136 people, new subscribers. That brings us to over 30,000 subscribers to our mailing and text subscription list. We sent over 7,000 emails in the month, and we had a 76% email open rate, which is very high for the industry. Next slide. So we're really excited to share that we had we just closed a comment period on the Cherry Hill Patapsco Regional Greenway Cherry Hill Trail, phase 2. So we went out and held a community meeting. We had around 20 some people show up. And again, we held a community meeting about I think it's 4 different trail alignments that were available for this trail, where it might be able to go in the community. So details are available at yourregionyourvoice.org/PRG for anybody who's interested in learning more. There's also a QR code that you can scan. We have been out and about connecting at commissions and professional meetings. So some of the meetings that we've been at as the Anne Arundel County Transportation Commission, some of the local commissions on disabilities and women's commissions, as well as the Howard County Multimodal Transportation Board. We've also been out and about different events. So on October 1st, we had a group of BMC staff that got together and participated in Walk Maryland Day. We had staff members there. You see our executive director, Mike Kelly, and our staff member, Eileen Singleton, at the Chesapeake and Potomac section of the Institute of Transportation Engineers, or CAPSITE as they're known. They had an annual conference, and so Mike was the featured speaker there. We also are gearing up for winter season, so there was an annual snowplow operations forum where we get folks together regionally to talk about what needs to happen to get prepared. So we were out and about talking with folks at MDOT and SHA for that. Also, out in the community, Hartford Transit is working on a project to explore new transit options in Aberdeen and Edgewood. So there was some open houses about microtransit out there. So staff participated in that. Also, we were at the Transit Choices meeting in October. Looking forward, they have another meeting coming up in December. That's going to be interesting. So we're looking forward to partnering on that. And then MDOT had been holding a series of meetings on the Consolidated Transportation Plan. So we were participating in that, finding out about what's going on locally with that. We have our transportation corps. So we're looking for volunteers. Particularly, we are seeking folks to participate and share their voice. From the outlying counties, so Annapolis, Anne Arundel, Carroll, Harford, Howard, and Queen Anne's counties. So anybody who is in those jurisdictions that might be interested, please check out our application at yourregionyourvoice.org/core app, or scan that QR code. So what's next? We're working on the launch of Region Next, which will be our long-range transportation plan. You can stay tuned to that and other projects at yourregionyourvoice.org. And that's all I have. If there's any questions, just let me know.
All right, thank you, Monica. We now ask for a report on the November meeting of the Technical Committee. Ms. Angie?
Good morning, everyone. There was a short meeting in November since we shared the time slot with the Congestion Management Committee. There were 3 actions that came before the Technical Committee. The first topic was to consider adopting the Bikeable Baltimore region, which is a plan for a safe and connected bike network. BMC staff described the types of bikeways, projected annual benefits, and how segments are prioritized. The next action item was a request by SHA to amend the TIP to add 3 new projects. The final action item was a request by MTA to amend the TIP for an ongoing program. Members listened to the presentations and asked several questions. Then all 3 items were voted to be sent to the BRTB for consideration. Under UPWP updates, there was a summary given of a task named the Traffic Signal Infrastructure Assessment. The goals of the TSIA pilot program were to establish a standardized, proactive process for conducting traffic signal infrastructure condition assessments, develop a methodology to identify rate and prioritize traffic signal conditions, and develop a GIS database. The presentation provided cogent information that will benefit all of our jurisdictions. Therefore, the consultant has been invited to share the results with you this morning. That concludes my report.
All right. Thank you, Angie. We'll now move on to the action items. Todd, please introduce the action items.
Good Good morning, everyone. Today, the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 26-11. This resolution adopts the process and recommendations for the extensive planning completed to develop the Bikeable Baltimore Region project. Ms. Charlene Mingus is now going to present on the materials. Charlene?
Great. Thank you for having me today. So the Bikeable Baltimore Region project is a plan to create a safe and connected, comfortable bike network that serves the entire Baltimore region. We can go to the next slide, actually. So the goal is to provide people of all ages and abilities with an option to bike to where they need to go, including public transit, schools, jobs, parks, and other essential destinations. So in 2024 and this year, PMC on behalf of BRTB worked with community members, advocates, and government partners at the local, regional, and state levels to identify the BBR network. This includes 330 miles of existing bikeways, 782 miles of planned bikeways, and 1,112 total miles of bikeways that connect the entire region. The BBR network is made up of existing bike lanes and paths, plus future routes from adopted local plans throughout the Baltimore region. So the network is completely made up of bikeways that come from the local plans. Go to the next slide. So it's made up of different bikeway types, including regional bikeways that connect across the region, community bikeways that connect to major activity centers, and then local bikeways that connect neighborhoods to these areas. We also identified opportunities to explore in the future where planned or existing bikeways were rated as high stress with the level of traffic stress analysis developed by the state, or areas where there were network gaps, where there are no planned or existing bike facilities. So we're working together as a region to look at those in the future to see where we can create more connectivity. So next slide. So it's estimated that the network would have 121.9 million in annual benefits through environmental sustainability, quality of life, economic competitiveness, and state of good repair. Next slide. So one big part of the project was prioritizing the planned network, looking at what would be short, mid, and long-term priorities. So we looked at 0 to 5 years, which is the filling priority gaps, and then had a subcategory of projects that are very advanced and are under final design, under construction. And we also looked at projects that are about the midterm, so 5 to 10 years, that are high priority projects identified through our prioritization scoring through the project. And then we also identified long-term projects that were identified as lower priority through that prioritization scoring, as you can see on the map here. And next slide. So next steps, it's very exciting. We are putting the finishing touches on the project website, and we will launch that. We're working on launching that later today or tomorrow morning, so we're really excited about that. So we have we'll have the BBR plan also released at that point, and we'll be able to share that with everyone. We also will propose projects for the fiscal year 2027 UPWP. These can include developing uniform design standards for the network that align with low stress bikeway best practices, MDOT Complete Streets policy, and the local guidance. And another idea is developing a consistency checklist to ensure that bikeways receiving funding or technical assistance meet low stress bikeway design standards. And then other initiatives that may be done more internally by BMC staff would include tracking the status of BBR network projects and performance measures, attainment through publicly available online resources, establishing a working group to coordinate BBR network implementation efforts, and then supporting local Safe Routes to School program initiatives, among other efforts. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Does any BRTB member have any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, we now ask if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution. For those online, please indicate if you would like to comment in the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Currently, there is no one from the public requesting to speak on this resolution.
All right, thank you. Well, when your name is read, please indicate yea or nay in support of the BBR.
City of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore City, Baltimore County,
Yay.
Carroll County, Harford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT,
Yay.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, moving on to the next resolution. Today, the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 26-12. This was requested by the State Highway Administration for 3 tip amendments. Mr. Keith Kachark is going to introduce the resolution and then introduce a representative from State Highway Administration. Keith?
Thanks, Todd. As Todd mentioned in Resolution 26-12, MDOT SHA is requesting to add 3 new projects to the FY 26 to 29 tip. The US 1 from PG County line to Gorman Road project will add shared use paths along US 1 in Howard County. The Sparrows Point running highway interchange planning study will explore a full interchange at the I-695 and Burning Highway intersection. And the Anne Arundel County Trails, Spurs, and Connectors project will add missing trail segments to connect to the local schools. These amendments were presented to the technical committee on November 4th and were recommended to be sent to the BRTB as presented. And additionally, all 3 of these amendments were reviewed by the ICG and have been determined to be exempt according to the conformity rule. And I think Ben Allen is here from SHA, and he's going to present the details of the projects. Ben?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? I was having some traffic issues this morning, so I got here by some divine miracle on time. So yeah, first project that we're presenting today is the US 1 project from the PG County line to Gorman Road. This is a PSAP project. And specifically what we're doing is we're adding this one into the tip. This was included in the tip previously as an area-wide under the Safety Spot Improvement program. But now that it's fully funded, the total cost exceeds 20 million. And so we wanted to add this as a standalone project into the tip. So we're adding the new project, and we're adding design, right-of-way, and construction funding specifically. Next slide, Keith. So this project, like I said, is a PSAP project that improves safety, accessibility, and operations for vulnerable roadway users. The project specifically is providing an additional shared use path and repurposed outside travel lanes as new bike and ped lanes within the corridor, and provides signal crossing modifications as needed throughout the corridor. Next slide. So specifically, we're adding $3.45-ish million of PE, a little over 700K in right-of-way, and a little under 18 million in construction, all using HSHIP funding. So, which equates to 90% federal and then 10% local match. So the next project that we're amending into the tip is an earmark for the Sparrows Point Broning Highway project. So this is the straight new project that we're adding into the tip. Again, using earmark HIP funding. So this project is specifically a planning study to help improve highway capacity and operations at Sparrows Point, at the Sparrows Point Broning Highway nexus, partial interchange at current. This provides funding for planning study for the partial interchange to be converted into a full interchange, and this will help reduce the impact of trucking to residential communities on Dundalk Avenue and Hollowbird Avenue. Next slide. So we are amending 1.25 million using HIP funds. So specifically 1 million in federal for HIP funds, and then a 20% match of 250K. And so last but not least, we're adding another earmark project, an Anne Arundel County Trails, Spurs, and Connectors project. So we're specifically adding design, the project and specifically design funds into the tip. So this project is going to help extend a trail network to complete connections between VWI Trail and the Corcoran Middle School and the B&A Trail to Severn Park High School. Improvements include a 10-foot wide trail, crosswalks, signage markings, pedestrian bridge, boardwalk, culverts, stormwater management, and landscaping. And so for this amendment, we're adding specifically design funding in the amount of $764,000, which equates to a little over 600K in HIP earmark grants, and then a local match of 153,000. And I'm filling in for Joe, just for everybody's awareness. Happy to answer any questions you have.
With that, Mr. Chair, we now ask the BRTB to consider Resolution 26-12.
All right. Does any BRTB member have any questions or comments on the amendments? All right. We now ask if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the amendments. For those online, please indicate if you would like to comment in the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Your Chair, no member of the public is requesting to speak in the chat box. Thanks.
When your name is read, please indicate yea or nay in support of the amendments.
Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore County,
Yay.
Harford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT,
Yay.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay.
Mr. Chair and Board, today the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 26-13. This amendment was requested by the Maryland Transit Administration for a project to be added to the TIP. Mr. Keith Kuchark again is going to introduce the resolution, and a representative from MTA. Keith?
Thank you again, Todd. In Resolution 26-13, MDOT MTA is requesting to amend one project in the FY 26 to 29 TIP, the Seniors and Individuals with Disabilities Project. This amendment will shift funds to the proper year of obligation. It was supposed to be obligated in 2025, and they're shifting it to 2026 because it wasn't obligated. This amendment was presented to the technical committee on November 4th and was recommended to be sent to the BRTB as presented. And additionally, this project was reviewed by the ICG and has been determined to be exempt according to the conformity rule. And Mr. Albert Engel will report for MTA, give you the details on the project. Albert?
Good morning, everybody. flip forward. So yeah, this as Keith mentioned, this is an MTA TIP amendment for the project regarding seniors and individuals with disabilities. This project provides capital and operating assistance to nonprofit agencies to provide transportation services for older adults, people with disabilities that are selected through a competitive selection process based upon the Baltimore Area Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. Overall, this program is intended to enhance mobility for seniors and people with disabilities by providing funding, capital and operating for programs to serve the special needs of transit-dependent populations that are beyond what traditional public transportation services, fixed route, and ADA complementary paratransit services are. This particular amendment is adding $4.531 million in Section 5310 funds, of which $3.275 million is federal and $1.256 is state, and that's going to go into FY26, shifting from a previous year, as Keith mentioned, to accurately reflect the correct year of obligation. These are going to support nonprofit organizations in the Baltimore region for seniors and individuals with disabilities. Overall, the estimated total cost increases from $9.36 million to $13.891 million. So this just highlights the differences. As you can see, there's new money that's coming in both state and federal in fiscal year 26. And then this is the sort of top line numbers that show new and original, both federal and state. And that total is, again, 4.531 of new money and a total for the whole project of 13.891 million. And that's it. Happy to answer any questions. And thanks for your support.
With that, Mr. Chair, we now ask the board to consider resolution 26-13.
All right, thank you. Does any BRTB member have any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, we now ask if any member of the public has any questions or comments on the resolution. For those online, please indicate if you would like to comment in the chat box. Todd, has any member of the public asked to speak?
Chair and board, no member of the public has requested to speak on this resolution.
All right, thank you. When your name is read, please indicate yea or nay in support of the amendment.
Anne Arundel County,
Yay.
Baltimore County,
Yay.
Harford County,
Yay.
Howard County,
Yay.
Queen Anne's County,
Yay.
MDOT,
Yay.
RTA of Central Maryland.
Yay.
All right. All right, on to the next item.
Mr. Chair, today the BRTB will be briefed by the BMC Executive Director, Michael Kelly, on the status and activities of the work group on the reorganization of the Maryland Transit Administration.
All right, do you want me to share my screen, Todd?
I can have you share your screen. Just one moment, please.
All right, this will save everybody me saying next slide 100 times. All right, so I'm going to present today on the House Bill 517 work group on the reorganization of MTA. Did that slide move?
Yes.
Okay. So this was a bill introduced in the 25 session by delegates Corman, Solomon, and Spiegel, signed into law by Governor Moore, and we have an interim report due on December 1st. The members of the work group are here on the right. It's chaired by Sam Sid, who is the deputy CAO in Baltimore County, who was appointed by the governor. And other members include Wesley Miller, who's a transportation consultant, delegates Edelson and Corman, Senators Jackson and McCray, the acting secretary, the MTA administrator, John Lariat as chair of the BRTC, and I am serving as the representative from the region's MPO. I'm going to walk through the enabling legislation and sort of touch on these points to give you guys an update about where things are. So the focus of the group is to study the potential for reorganizing the MTA. And the first item in the bill was options for allowing the administration to continue providing local city transit service and the creation of a new unit or organization in the Office of the Secretary to look at statewide services. I'll get to this. This has become a key focus of what we expect our recommendations to be. Ultimately, the group is going to recommend a core service board to oversee certain aspects of MTA's core service, and then the creation of a commuter services board that would look at both MARC and commuter bus at a statewide level. The next item was the current contractual obligations and agreements of the administration and the necessary steps to transfer these. This was included in the event that a recommendation was made to sort of completely restructure MTA into an independent authority. At this point, I think it's safe to say that this part of our study is moot. There's not going to be a recommendation out of this group to create a new authority outside of state government. It was determined, we spent a long time talking about all of the steps and the costs and the legalities of this. And as a group, we came to the consensus that it was, it's not in the best interest to make a change that drastic at this time. So we certainly looked at this issue and came to the decision that that big a change is not what is needed. Next is the governance changes to the administration necessary to ensure that Baltimore City has appropriate oversight and input into Baltimore City Transit Service. I would really interpret this as to include the three jurisdictions served by core service, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. I know there is a very small portion of core service in Howard County as well, but we did spend a lot of time talking about an appropriate role for local governments who rely on this service to have some direct influence and say into the planning and programming of MTA service. So we'll talk about that as well. And then recommendations regarding the potential for the reorganization of MDOT and MTA. And the recommendations are going to be the creation of a Baltimore Core Service Board and a Community Service Board. And we did not get as far as having a public org chart. I wish there was a visual I could show you, but I'll talk about that a little later on. The next part of the bill talked about the role of the work group and what we were supposed to do. First was to analyze alternative reorganization plans and weigh the costs and benefits of each. We did that. We went through a number of options. I'll share the three final options that we talked about at our last meeting. And in terms of the costs and benefits, we really veered toward a lower cost. The next item was specific cost estimates. I think this was included again to look at the creation of an independent authority. And that's not where we landed. We really landed on lower cost recommendations, at the most either reclassifying or creating a couple positions in MTA, but not any major cost beyond that. And then the impact of any potential reorganization on federal funding and regulatory compliance. The big debate here was whether or not to identify a new direct recipient of federal funds. And again, the decision was that was sort of a bridge too far and unnecessary. So hopefully the recommendations are intended to not have any impact on federal funding and regulatory compliance. And then lastly, the work group was under instructions that any recommendations would not reduce funding for local city transit services, and no recommendation has done that. So that sort of walks through the bill. You're certainly all welcome to read it as well. It's very exciting. But that was the charge of the commission from the legislature. At this point, we've had 4 meetings starting at the end of August. The first meeting was organization and overview of the work group, as well as a lengthy presentation from MDOT MTA giving an overview of that unit. At the second meeting, we talked about the history of the State Railroad Administration, We looked at other models of MDOT governance boards and got detail on MTA's federal and contract considerations. And that's the meeting where I think it became clear to the members that untangling all of that it was not worth the effort at this point. Our third meeting on October 9th, MTA presented their workforce considerations, again, making the point that a major change was not necessary at this point, given the size of the agency and all of the complexities there. I made a presentation about the transit governance studies that BMC, BRTB, and the BRTC have undertaken since 2015, sort of laying out the case for the Baltimore region and the need for more direct involvement from local governments in oversight of MTA. And then we talked about the goals and objectives of the work group. At the last meeting, APTA came in and presented national transit governance models, and we talked about considerations for the interim report. And for the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the challenges that were identified at the October 9th meeting, and then go through what the recommendations for the governance models are. So the challenges can really be broken down into two buckets. You have the Baltimore region challenges and the commuter system challenges. I'm certainly better versed on the Baltimore region challenges, and I'll sort of summarize where we were on the commuter system. Those have largely been led by Delegate Corman, who has a specific interest in MARC and commuter services. In terms of the Baltimore region, we talked about stagnant development. We haven't built a new rail line since the 1990s. We talked about the challenge of project cancellation, the idea that under the current structure, a change in administration or a change of mind from a governor can zero out a project like the Red Line that has taken years and decades of planning without any say from the jurisdictions impacted by it. We talked about the lack of local government participation and the fact that of the 30 or so largest transit agencies in the country, the transit agency serving the Baltimore region is the only one without any board of directors or opportunities for public and local government input. We looked at limited opportunity for impactful advocacy, and in this case, the idea that a lack of a board really limits our region's ability to weigh in about needs from a position of knowledge and insight. The BRTC is working on this issue a little bit this year, having a preview of MTA's budget request, but with the way the CTP works, if the advocacy doesn't occur at the front end of the CTP process, by the time the money's allocated, it's too late to push for projects. So we talked about the need for the region to have the ability to weigh in early, as WMATA does. And then we talked about our region being the only region without a board. On the commuter system, it's a similar point where there's a lack of statewide coordination. The MARC service, I believe, serves eight or nine jurisdictions. And there's not a unified plan from local governments on that. There's not a real public process for weighing in on these developments in the service, especially as MARC expands in other parts of the state. And it's seen as a way of building development in sort of ex-urban cores and alleviating traffic congestion. And then we talked about commuter bus as well. And then looking at stagnant growth of MARC and unmet potential. And so we talked about the need for not a board level decision-making body, but an advisory body with powers, I think, that would ultimately mirror those of the BRTC to start weighing in on these issues. Also on the table was the creation of a rail authority, and the commission's not in a position to recommend that at this point, but that idea was certainly discussed. So next are the options that we looked at. Option A was a statewide multimodal board, so putting one board over all of MTA. I will speak from my perspective on this. This is not the option that the board is going to recommend. And I certainly felt strongly that this did not solve the Baltimore region's issues. One of our challenges is that MTA's largest expansion project since the 90s is in an area served by WMATA. It's in a different part of the state. And I certainly felt, and others on the work group felt, that it's important for our region to have a singular voice on these issues. The next was a core service board. This is something we're going to recommend, but a core service board alone without something for the other community services serves our region, but does not serve the statewide needs as well. And so the recommendation is most likely going to be option C. This is where we left it at the last meeting, where you have independent mode-specific or geographic boards. And what we're looking at are two mode-specific boards, the one mode being, if you can call it that, the Baltimore core service. So taking light rail, core service bus, and the metro and having a board over that, and then having a board over statewide commuter services. So the first is both mode and geographic, and the second is a commuter mode board. In terms of what these recommendations are likely to look at, this is where we left it at the last meeting. The Baltimore Core Service Board, the recommendation will be to have a designated leadership role at MTA, someone who, as an employee, works for the administrator, but deals specifically with the Core Service Board. The board would have state and local appointees, with a majority of the appointees coming from the state. And the focus will be on bus, light rail, and metro service. The powers being discussed are budget review and approval, and a really specific focus on capital improvement grants, and making sure that those grants can have the stability they need to actually make it all the way through the process. On the commuter service board, similarly, there would be a designated leadership role at MTA, another high-level person reporting to the administrator, focused on this commuter service board. Representation would come from the areas served by Mark, and the group would be advisory in nature with a focus on budget and project review. Currently, the BRTC reviews and comments on the CTP, the budget request, and plans and programs. And I believe the recommendation is going to be for this board to have a similar set of powers. And then the two House members on the group would also like these boards to have specific budget hearings in Annapolis to draw attention during the budget process to exactly what their needs are. So what this does is elevate the core service and commuter functions within MTA, but it also leaves a number of major functions at MTA at large under the direction of the administrator. Service operations, capital operations, state and federal relations, work with the secretary's office, labor negotiations, their police force, budget and finance, other statewide services, and MTA would remain the direct recipient of federal funds, and the administrator would remain the supervisor of these two new positions. We did talk about the role of the MTA administrator, and at this point, it is a role that is really stretched all across the state, where someone's priority every day has to be both the Purple Line and the light rail investment program and the MARC service and all of these management issues. And in the work group, we talked about how that role is largely too big for one person to manage. So the intent here is to elevate the MTA administrator to be a senior level manager of all of these, but also to identify a singular individual who wakes up every day thinking about Baltimore core service. Delegate Edelson repeatedly said that at the meetings, that his vision is to have someone who wakes up every day solely focused on the buses, to make sure our system gets the attention that we believe it deserves. The next steps for the work group are a final meeting this Friday, November 21st in Annapolis. The recommendations are going to include the structure that I've outlined here, and we do not have a org chart to share. I'm hoping after the meeting there'll be something that can be shared to provide a visual. There will be an interim report filed on December 1st, The work group is formed through next year. It was given a 2-year window to do its work. So legislation may be filed in the 2026 session. Some of these issues may linger on beyond the session, but that has not yet been determined. So we're hoping to have a good, strong interim report that can certainly lead to something happening this session, and then we'll see what remains to be accomplished after that. And here is my information. I'm sure everyone knows how to find me, but I'm happy to answer any questions I can at this point. Also happy if there are no questions.
It sounds like there's no questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I know this is a very challenging effort that you guys have, that we're pushing forward. So thank you again.
Great. Thank you, Trey.
Now we're going to have an interesting and needed report on an asset management framework for traffic signal infrastructure. Here to report on the work done for BRTB is Mr. Woody Hood from Meeting Hut.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity. Go ahead, Todd. You can go to the next slide. Today's presentation is going to focus on these 6 areas that were part of this project. Background introduction, we did do a state of the practice review, and then we did a common themes review for the Baltimore metro area. Then we're going to talk about the inspection process itself and then the conclusions that we came to. Next. It's simple. If you're a owner and operator of traffic signals, this is not what you want to see. Unfortunately, this actually happened in Maryland several years ago over in Montgomery County. Luckily, no one was hurt when this occurred, but it was kind of one of those trigger events to the county. Next slide. And what it led to is Montgomery County being the first local jurisdiction to actually do a real traffic signal condition assessment program. What they were looking to do is find a way to prioritize the limited traffic signal funding that they had. A couple key things. Age alone is not a clear indicator of whether a traffic signal needs to be reconstructed or not. So what they wanted to develop was a clear process to identify what their critical needs were. Ultimately, it was an eye-opening experience for the county, and what you're going to see is some of the pictures of some things that we found, not just in that county, but throughout the state as we've done some of these inspection programs. We did find multiple locations that were in need of immediate replacement, and again, this was eye-opening to the county. We did basically an inspection, a rating, and a ranking process to help them identify what their critical needs were. And it was successful in getting them some additional funding over the following years to reconstruct some additional traffic signals on an annual basis. 3 other jurisdictions, Howard County, Frederick County, and City of Annapolis, seeing what was going on in Montgomery County, did their own inspection programs. And they saw similar results, and they were also successful in getting additional funding for their traffic signal programs. Next. There's about 2,500 traffic signals in the Baltimore metro area. Typical life expectancy of a traffic signal is around 30 years. One of the things that we found is with the maintenance budgets of the local agencies, that money is being spent on reactive needs, basically things that happen on a daily basis that they need to get to. So it leaves little time and resources to do these really intense traffic signal conditional assessments that are really needed. BMC, recognizing the success of some of those previously mentioned inspection programs, commissioned this project. Next. The goals were simple: establish a standardized procedure that could be used in the Baltimore metro area to help the agencies inspect and prioritize their traffic signal needs. We wanted to develop a GIS database to house that information so it could be used to help with planning future needs, hopefully get some additional funding for some of the local jurisdictions. The project actually began in April of this year. Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County, and the City of Annapolis participated in the project. And as part of this project, we did condition assessment inspections at 55 locations spread across those 3 jurisdictions. We also did a national state of the practice review And here's some of the key things that we found. Nationally, agencies estimate the service life is between 25 and 30 years. Excuse me, most agencies use a good, fair, poor rating system. Again, same thing with preventive maintenance. It's acknowledged as essential, but it's typically inconsistently implemented. And I think that goes back to the funding issue. With limited funding, you're doing reactive stuff instead of proactive type maintenance. Funding limitations, that's not just a Baltimore metro area thing. That's basically that's a national thing. There's just not enough money to go around for traffic signal reconstruction. And the key thing here is it's really important to focus on maintaining your infrastructure before you start pursuing advanced technologies. Next. What we found in the BMC area, most of the agencies in this area are reporting their infrastructure as good or improving. The improving could go back to some of those agencies. Actually, they're starting to get some additional money now to reconstruct some of their signals that are in their biggest needs. There's a lot of variability in the type of assessment and maintenance work that's done around the region. Again, preventive maintenance is recognized as essential, but it's not uniformly implemented, and the documentation can be inconsistent. Funding limitations, always a big issue when it comes to traffic signals. And the bottom here is key. Those agencies that we've done the inspection programs have been able to get additional resources for their programs. I'll add this in. Pictures will tell 1,000 words, and as you're going to see in a few minutes, some of the pictures can be very, very eye-opening. Next, some of the common themes that you're going to see. So far, our agency, we've done about 1,000 traffic signal inspections throughout Maryland. The previously mentioned jurisdictions that you saw, also the pilot testing of the 5 locations that were actually a part of this project. And each of those jurisdictions, we typically found at least one thing that had gone unnoticed by the agency that owned the traffic signal. Next. Okay, here's where we get to some of the interesting stuff. I'm going to start with traffic signal poles. Deterioration of the traffic signal poles was a key issue that we found. There were a lot of locations that we found where there was the deterioration was significant enough that we were able to take the screwdriver and punch it through the metal near the base of the pole. That's pretty scary. Some of the poles actually had to be removed immediately because they presented a safety issue. In most cases, or actually in all cases, this caught the agency by surprise. They were not expecting us to find this level of deterioration. Next. And here's some of those photographs. As you can see, that pole on the top left, it's kind of hard to tell from this picture, but there's actually some holes in the base of that pole. That was one of the inspections I did, and the screwdriver went through a small space at one point, and the next time I hit the base, a chunk of metal about the size of a quarter came out. That was an immediate call to the agency to have the pole removed. As you can see, some of the other damage that's shown here, a lot of rust and deterioration. And it's not just the poles themselves, it's also some of the hardware. I'm sorry, go ahead, Todd. We're good. Vehicle impact damage, this is another big issue. We found multiple locations across all those jurisdictions where poles had been hit, and the damage was so severe that the pole had to be either replaced immediately or replaced on an accelerated schedule. Some of these locations we actually brought in our structural engineers and had them assess the pole to make sure, A, that it was safe, and see how quickly it needed to be replaced. One of the key things that we recommended here as part, and we've recommended this in all the inspection programs that we've been involved with, is there needs to be a very sound working relationship with our first responders and the agencies that own and maintain traffic signals, so that whenever a pole is hit in a vehicle accident, it gets reported to the agency so that the agency can do the proper follow-up and make sure the pole is still sound. Next. And this is some pictures here. You can see that picture on the left. Our inspectors actually took a credit card and were able to slide it through that gap in the metal. as you can see, there's a lot of this stuff, and a lot of times this goes it goes unreported to the agency until somebody notices it or the agency does some type of inspection program like this, and then we find it. Next, water and moisture damage. A lot of that damage is actually hidden. It's either buried or it's hidden under the some of the decorative pieces that the pole manufacturers like to sell. And it's not, a lot of this stuff is it's not picked up on during routine maintenance. You know, a technician may go out to the pole, go out to an intersection to run a routine trouble call, and he doesn't go around the intersection, so some of this stuff doesn't get noticed. Again, some of this really caught the jurisdictions by surprise. One of the key things here that we're recommending, and actually I haven't had one of the pole manufacturers recommend this, which I thought was kind of interesting, is the decorative caps and covers that they sell. They should be removed. Just get rid of them, because as you can see, next slide, some of the damage actually gets hidden. That picture on the right, there's typically what we call a teacup cap that goes over top of that anchor bolt tightening nut. And as you can see, we remove the caps, and this is some of the stuff that we actually find underneath. And again, if the caps are still on there, sometimes this will go unnoticed. That picture on the left was a relatively new pole. Another project that came along, and the grade was changed around the pole. The position of the pole wasn't taken into consideration. It was buried up to that access hole. We dug it out, and that's what we found underneath. And even galvanized poles, if you put enough moisture around them, they're still going to rust and deteriorate. Next. Loose hardware was another big issue that we found. This was common across all agencies. You know, you get wind vibration and things like that on these big mast arms. Things start to move around and get loose. Once that happens, it can kind of multiply or compound itself, and then more things can get loose, and then it ultimately can affect the integrity of the pole. You know, and over time it can result in poles falling. Next. As you can see on that top left picture, that's some of the hardware that actually holds a mast arm up. As you can see, you know, there's several loose bolts there. Now, if you look on the picture on the right, that's a little bit exaggerated. That nut was loose, not that quite that loose, but I know the signal technician in that particular jurisdiction. So when I took that picture and sent it to him, I was having a little bit of fun with him, but it was definitely loose enough that I walked up, I could take a hold of it with my hand and with no wrench or anything, and basically untighten it. That's how loose it was. But we typically find a lot of that stuff. And like I mentioned, when one thing is loose, it can, and the vibration starts to compound, it can loosen other components. Typically, when we found one loose bolt on a pole, it was not uncommon to find more. Next. The inspection process. Basically, there were three parts to it: the scope, the objective, and the frequency. The main thing as far as the scope goes is you want to focus on the key structural components. That's basically the poles and foundations, mast arms, the things that can be catastrophic if they have a failure. The objective, simple: identify the pieces that had deterioration and determine how soon they needed to be replaced, or if there are any intermediate steps that could be done to stretch the life of the asset. Frequency, we recommend to agencies every 3 to 5 years, they should do a complete assessment of all their signal infrastructure. The sooner you can identify issues, the easier it is to address them at an early stage and prevent them from becoming a major issue. Next. This is a sample of basically what we call the first page of our inspection sheet. It's a 3-page inspection sheet. The first page focuses on the key items. The key items are, are what I mentioned previously: the poles, foundations, span wires, mast arms. This is the key part of the inspection, basically the meat and potatoes. This is what ultimately will generate the score. And we cover a lot of things on here as far as their condition, for span wires and mast arms. Do they have rust and corrosion, loose parts? We do a quick look at utility issues. We check conduit capacities, but this is basically the main part. Next. This page is our second page. It's a supplemental items. This is basically more of an asset management or data collection page where we basically we inventory the cabinet and controller type, other necessary cabinet components. These are essentially things that it's good to have this information, but these are the type of items that don't necessarily generate the need to rebuild a traffic signal again. But as far as an asset management standpoint, it's good to have this information. And essentially what we use these for as well are tiebreakers. If you have two locations that have equal scores based on that structural page, you can use the supplemental items as kind of the tiebreaker. Next. And then finally, there's a maintenance page. While we're out there, if we see anything from a maintenance perspective that needs to be addressed, we note it on this page, and then this stuff kind of goes to the agency as part of the inspection package. And then also what it helps us to do is if there are any maintenance issues that we see on a consistent basis, then we can take that information back to the agency and they can use it to kind of focus the limited maintenance funds they had on specific things that need to be addressed. Next. This is a sample of the GIS database that was developed as part of this project. Like I said, there were 55 intersections in this project that were included. All the information from those inspections is housed in this database. The hope is that in the future, if additional funding becomes available for some of these agencies, that they can expand their inspection programs. And again, that information can be housed in here. The good thing about keeping a lot of this information is what we've been able to do for some of the agencies. Two of the agencies, we've actually done a second round of inspections. And what we've been able to do is by housing all this data is we can do what we call almost like a then and now comparison. We can go back and look at how a pole looked a couple of years ago versus how it looks now, and you can kind of track how fast something is deteriorating or if the deterioration has gotten significantly worse over that time period. Next. Prioritization is simple. We look at the, if there's an intersection that has 4 poles, the rating is based on what is the worst pole at the intersection. Again, the key structural components drive the main part of the ratings. The supplemental and maintenance items, again, they're basically just extra data collection points. We do a complete photographic inventory of every component at the intersection. So again, from an asset management standpoint, the agency has all the information that they can use. And the supplemental maintenance items, again, they're the tiebreakers. We look at, signing and pavement marking condition, things like that, that again, don't generate the need to rebuild a traffic signal, but it's good information for the agency to have. Next. Conclusions, the first bullet is simple. There's a lot of traffic signals in the Baltimore region, and they are a key component of our transportation network. We have to maintain them. If we don't maintain them, again, it affects the roadway users out there. Condition assessment programs such as this play a key role in helping agencies identify what their key needs are and hopefully can help them obtain additional funding to address those needs. As you can see from some of those pictures, again, a picture tells 1,000 words. And I think the agencies that we've done the inspection programs were able to take that information, and pass it to their budget folks who a lot of times, budget folks don't, they don't get to see this stuff in the field. So this gives the agency an opportunity, to take that information and pass it up the line and really prove what their needs are. And that's it. So if there are any questions, I can take care of those for you.
All right. Hearing none, I thank you, Woody. Appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. For our last presentation, Ms. Sydney Birch from BMC Safety Planner will share information on the grant BMC received for the Maryland Highway Safety Office.
Great, thank you. And thanks everybody for letting me be here today. I think Todd has my slides. Here they come. I'm going to talk about a new program. We're in our pilot year for it, and it's pretty exciting. So I think. So as Trey mentioned, we have funds through the Maryland Highway Safety Office, which is in MDOT MVA. For the year federal grant year, so October 1 to, I'm sorry, this one is a state fiscal year, so it's July 1 to June 30th. We have about almost $29,000 to distribute bike helmets and about $2,000 for bike lights to distribute for safety purposes. So again, it's for outreach programs, riders of all ages. And we really want it to be not just giveaways that we hand out. We want interaction, promote safe practices, and really fit the helmet to the recipient and take that opportunity to explain the value of always wearing a helmet, no matter what your age, when you ride a bike. So the plan for this process, we're almost halfway through. Started out just sending quarterly solicitations. So I started with our local SHSP teams and partners within those. So within the health department, law enforcement, planning, engineering, schools, different folks, send them a message, let them know we have this opportunity. We do have a maximum of 150 helmets per request, which may sound like a lot, but we've had some bigger requests, and we had a lot coming in the beginning for about 100 or so. So we figure that's a nice spot. We want it to be event focused. So we don't want people just asking for helmets to put in storage and distribute when they want. We want it to be a focused event. We can help support things like we've done National Night Out. We're doing some holiday events that are coming up. That way we can also get feedback on the audience we're reaching, different types of populations and different ways to try to be able to spread these safety messages. As far as our role as BMC, we do a direct ship to our recipient, our partner. We don't house anything here. We take the orders, we pay the bills, and we get it sent directly to you. So sometimes that affects the size of the order. It depends on how much storage space you may have and how many helmets you can hold. We also make available educational materials, different things that we get from the Highway Safety Office. And if you would like someone to actually come to the event to do the education and outreach, fit the helmet on the person, we can make someone available to you too. One thing is we don't want to encourage night riding among the really young children. So this is all ages, all sizes of helmets, but we try to keep the lights for the older populations, whether it's high schools or adults. That way it's got that safety aspect to it, and it's not trying to have kids out there after night, which we know can be challenging to see them anyway. This is just a shot of what the request form looks like, the top part of it. So you can see we just asked for shipping information and information about the event that it should be focused around. We understand you may say I need 150 for National Night Out, and then you only give out 100. We're not asking for them back. We want you to keep them, distribute them as you see fit going forward. That's fine. We just want at least a focal event for the request. And you can see we do try to ask for 2 weeks notice. There's a pre-approval process because it's funds through the Highway Safety Office. So it takes up to a week to get all the approvals before we can even place the order. So we're trying to plan ahead, and I think folks are getting the hang of it. This is just a shot of one of the types of helmets we get, some of the types of lights that we get. The lights do come in pairs, so it's a front and back light for the bikes. You can see different types of helmets, toddler all the way up to adult large, things like that. And again, I always tell people we just want to plan ahead so we have time for the ordering and the delivery as well after we get the approvals. And because it's a state grant and because we're all safety data people anyway, there is a follow-up I send out afterwards, and it's a form where I just ask, what was actually distributed at the event, the types of folks it was that were at the event, any other tidbits of information so we can try and plan better for the future. Like I said, it's a pilot project. A similar project was run through the state EMS agency years ago, and it was focused on clinical agencies. So this is a first way for the Highway Safety Office to try to get it out regionally through different types of safety partners. So it may grow next year, it may shift, it may change. So we want to get as much feedback as possible to do that. This is just what that feedback form looks like again. So it's basically, tell me again the name of the event. We've had a few where something's happened. There's been a rain out or something else. So they said, we went to a different event. That's fine. Let me know where it was. what was actually distributed, like I said, different types of ages that were there and languages spoken, and any other good piece of information they can provide. We share this back with the Highway Safety Office as well. So far, how have we done so far? We're 5 months in. After we had a little build up, we had requests from Anne Arundel County Fire Department. We've had subsequent interest from them, so we expect more out of them as well. They started with just 50 helmets, but they had an event with 200 people. So they gave out all their helmets and they're here for more. Baltimore County Fire Department, their community risk reduction team, asked for some helmets, and they were able to distribute 43 at their first event. It had 180 people, but it takes time, because like we're saying, they're not just giveaways. We want you to fit it to the person's head and give them a little bit of information. And Carroll County Public Schools had some great events and started with just 50 helmets, but had 1,000 people, and they've told us they want to come back and get a lot more too. They're able to focus on schools and communities they may see the kids with bikes or see kids interested in bikes, but don't have that safety equipment to go along with it. So that's been great. Upcoming events. So we've shipped out to Harford County Sheriff's Office. They're going to make this a part of their holiday events, their Shop with the Cop, and some other things. Howard County Public Schools has been working with a nonprofit based out of Howard County that's pretty awesome. It's called Free Bikes for Kids. If you haven't heard of it, I'll tell you to look it up, because they take donated bikes, they refurbish them, fix them up, they get them from either bike shops or donations, and give them back to kids, and have 2 big holiday events in mid-December. So we were able to help get them some helmets to go along with it, because they won't give out a bike without a helmet to go with it. They're very safety focused as well. And Woodside Elementary School, which is in Anne Arundel County, they're having an event in a couple of days actually with a men's group, and it's ride with your student or ride with your child kind of day. So it's focused on bike safety. So we're able to get some educational materials as well as bikes, helmets, and lights to them. So that's been interesting and exciting to kind of get around the region, get some different partners too, whether it's schools or fire departments, nonprofits. We did have 2 special requests from outside of our region. We worked with the Highway Safety Office to help them out with that. But we're focused for all of our regional partners here. So we're planning ahead for the spring. We have Bike Safety Month coming up in May. That's still within the grant year. And we know once the weather turns, there's going to be a lot more folks out there on the roads. So we're also we have about half of the budget left to be able to support events next year. We already have 2 that have asked for that out of Anne Arundel County Office of Transportation. So thank you. And Baltimore City Office of Sustainability. So that was great to get a lot of interest out of some more jurisdictions. And like I said, we anticipate more coming back from Anne Arundel Fire, Baltimore County Fire, and Carroll County Public Schools. They've already kind of put the bug in our ear a little bit that they'll be calling us in the spring. So next steps for this, like I said, I'm going to send out a message January 1st, this time of year, and it's already getting cold. We may not have too many requests to fill right away, but planning ahead for spring, the more we can plan, the better. If you don't get those requests or emails from me and would like to, please let me know. I certainly have bike ped coordinators and your local SHSB team leads on my list. Again, planning ahead for May. And like I said, the project ends in June. The Highway Safety Office annual grant applications open up in January. So we're going to start talking here with management. Sorry. Oh, my light went out and I can't get it on. Sorry. With management here at BMC and also with our program manager at the Highway Safety Office to see what it might look like for next year. And so far, I know they're really excited about the level of interest we're getting throughout the region, and hoping we're making a difference. And that's my contact information. If you have any other questions or want to be added to the list, just let me know. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cindy. That was very informative and exciting. Is there any business to come before the BRTB?
The chair, staff has no additional business for the BRTB.
All right, thank you. And hearing none, I call for a vote to close the meeting. All in favor, please say yay. Yay.
Yay. Yay.
All right. The next meeting of the BRTB is scheduled for December 16th.